for the grid. Check, check, 1, 2, 3. Check. A warm welcome from the starting grid of the FIA Formula 4 Central European Zone. It's the third round of the season. We're ready to start the first race of this weekend here at the Slovakia Ring, the 5.9-kilometer track that will host the third race weekend of the season. And what a better way to start than with the first two drivers in the driver standings on the front row of the grid. It's Oscar Wirtz for Genza starting on pole position. He put the fastest lap in qualifying with a brilliant performance, and he will start from the first position just ahead of Kirill Kutskov for Mafia Racing. He's going to be starting in second. The two best drivers of the season so far, splitting the 3 wins in Balaton, and of course Wirtz shining at the Red Bull Ring for round 2, whereas unfortunately the Mafia Racing driver had to miss out on the second round of the championship. But we're ready here in Slovakia. We have 11 cars on the field, and we're ready to have so much fun. It's going to be a very, very difficult race for the drivers. It's very hot today. The conditions, of course, with bright sunshine, as you can see behind me. The cars are ready, the drivers are ready, and we are ready to watch a spectacular race unfold here at the Slovakia Ring. It's going to be very interesting to see whether Oscar Wirtz will defend into turn 1 the lead, or if perhaps his main rival Kirill Kutskov for Mafia will try and get first position towards turn 1. We're getting ready. The drivers are now in the car. The engineers are saying the last things, the last tips for the drivers. Of course, they're going to have the first of 3 races scheduled here for the weekend for FIA Formula 4 CEZ, and we're ready to have some fun. Of course, no rain forecasted for the whole weekend, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the tires are managed by the drivers. Of course, we saw beautiful battles at the Red Bull Ring for round 2 and in Balaton Park for round 1. And here in Slovakia, we are ready to see some action, with Genzer being, of course, the main team to watch out for. They were first in the team standings out of the first 2 rounds, and they will definitely be the team to watch today. But of course, Mafi and all the other drivers, as for example, alongside me, IS Motorsport, they're definitely going to try and fight for the podium positions. Of course, we're going to see many battles unfold today, with the race ready to be underway. We're just a few minutes away from the formation lap to start here on the 5.9-kilometer track that features 14 turns, 7 to the left, 7 to the right. It's a very difficult track, especially for young drivers who need to learn how difficult it is to fight with these cars on such a wide track, and especially on the elevation changes that we have, for example, in the second sector, which is definitely the most technical out there. We're then ready to start. We only have 1 minute until the start of the race, and so we're ready to be in the commentary box, ready to go and ready to make the best out of the better situation possible here for the first race of the FIA CEZ Round 3 here at the Slovakia Ring. And so here we are for the first race of the FIA CEZ Championship here in Slovakia ring. It's the third round of the season, and of course here you can see the grid with Oscar Wirtz and Kirill Kutskov leading things up. It's 11 drivers, of course, here for the first race of the weekend. The championship starting off last year with the first ever season. And of course now the drivers are starting to, get to know the championship, get to know the car, which is why actually we have many more drivers, almost double the drivers, compared to the first race of the season. And so we're ready. The drivers are taking to the grid. 11 cars ready to fight things off for this opening race. It's Oscar Wirtz starting in pole position. He had a lovely qualifying lap yesterday on Friday with Kirill Kutskov lining up right alongside him. It's Miroslav Mikes in third position ahead of Max Karhan, the two Czech drivers completing the second row of the grid, with Theodor Borenstein making his debut in the series in fifth position ahead of Jonathan Correrella. Michalina Sabaj is the first female driver on the grid. She's in 7th position ahead of Gabriela Holguin, who's making his debut. But here we are with 11 cars ready to race here at the Slovakia ring for round number 3 of the season. It's the first race. The 5 lights are off and away we go. It's a terrible start by the two Genza drivers in 3rd and 4th position, but a lovely getaway from both Oscar Wirtz and Kirill Kutskov, with Wirtz holding down P1, and you can see a lovely start for Theodor Borenstein as well, who is fighting now to get up into 2nd position. Here we are into turn 1, a fast sweeping right-hander with Oscar Wirtz holding pole position and staying in the lead of the race, with 2nd place now belonging to Theodor Borenstein, with Kirill Kutskov now in 3rd position. Lovely start from Wirtz, however, will now be under threat going towards turn number 3, trying to break off the slipstream towards one of the hardest braking points of the entire track. And now down the inside keeps Oscar Wirtz the 1st position. He was very good to start things off, especially towards turn number 1, whereas the two Genza drivers starting in 3rd and 4th respectively had a very tough start, therefore struggling quite a lot. And here we can see a car wide towards turn number 8. And here you can see Oscar Wirtz slowly starting to put his tires into the right temperature window, fighting the car through the 2nd sector, of course the most technical sector, of course being the best part of the circuit, the most technical, the one that drivers need to make the most out of. And here you can see Oscar Wirtz, brother of Charlie, of course, the FIA Formula 3 driver, now currently building a gap over his rivals, with the Austrian now going down the hill after turn number 12 towards the very long right-hander into turn 13. It's been a lovely start for Oscar Wirtz, not so much for Kirill Kutskov, down into 3rd place. Wasn't the easiest of starts. He looked to have the jump on Oscar Wirtz for a split second before getting the motor to P3 after the opening corner. And here we go towards lap number 2. It's Oscar Wirtz in 1st position ahead of Mikes actually in 2nd place, but now Kutskov going down the inside and reclaiming 2nd position. The winner of the final race in Balaton, showing his strength, but now Mikes trying the up and under. And a great defensive drive from the number 6 car, who is now up into 2nd position once more. And now you can see Kutskov, who definitely desperately wants 2nd position to be the first of the fighters for the win, as Kutskov goes round the outside. And lovely move by Kutskov around the outside into turn number 3 to take home 2nd position. You also saw a fight between Karhan and Correrella towards the same corner, with the latter not being able to get the moves done on Karhan, who is now staying in 4th place, whereas Kutskov has moved up to 2nd with Mikesh now dropping to third. But as you can see, Oscar Wirtz has disappeared into the distance. The Genza driver has done a fantastic job throughout the end of lap 1 and the start of lap 2, really, to increase his gap over second position. Of course, the fight breaking out between Kutskov and Mikesh, helping the championship leader Oscar Wirtz disappearing into the distance in race 1. And here you can see the gap is already close to 1.5 seconds, with Wirtz in the white, black and green car in first position. And here you can see also Mikesh being now attacked by Karhan. Of course, the Czech driver in 4th place for Genza just turned 16 on the 14th of April. And here you can see another Genza car going off into the gravel as we start lap number 3 with Oscar Wirtz in first position, a 2-second gap over his rivals, of course, setting the fastest lap of the race on lap 2, 5/10ths quicker than Kutskov in second. And here you can see Correrella and Holguin trying to attack Karhan in 4th, who has had a terrible exit out of the final corner. Here you can see Correrella trying to get a move done up the inside, switches to the outside towards turn number 3, where Kutskov did the same move on Mikesh a lap earlier, but unfortunately here we can just about see that Karhan has stayed in front, and so the Genza driver keeps 4th position. But here you can see Correrella trying everything in his power to move up to 4th, and he needs to be very careful about Holguin. Now to his inside, the Mafi driver, teammate of Kutskov, in 2nd position, trying to make the move stick. Holguin unable to move into 5th, but still very close to Correrella, who locked up going into turn number 11. And here you can see the hill, while the drivers pass right before another very big braking point in this lovely 5.9 kilometer track into turns number 10, 11 and 12 before going up the bigger hill, where now Holguin almost loses his car, manages to catch it somehow, especially in the final part of turn number 12. He's lost the draft, however, to Correrella, a very big factor here in Formula 4 racing. As you can see now, Mikesh struggling to keep up with the top 2 drivers. The JMT racing car with a bright neon yellow halo in 3rd position, now defending from the Genza driver of Max Karhan, the number 144 car. Here you can see the Genza livery that we've come to know and love during the past few seasons of Formula 4, and of course last year's team champions in the opening season of F4 Central European Zone. With now 18 minutes and 13 seconds remaining, it's Oscar Wirtz for Genza leading things off with a 2.2 second gap. He's lapped pretty quickly this past lap, together with Kutskov actually. Wirtz has only gained a 10.5 over his rival. As here you can see the Austrian right in front of Kutskov, and the fight for 3rd position unfolding with Mikesh struggling to keep Karhan behind, which is helping Jonathan Correrella, the French from Ideal Line Performance Gender Racing Team, who is definitely looking to score a podium today, which is Karhan's main objective now, as he's fighting for 3rd together with Mikesh, who had a phenomenal start and then unfortunately had to drop down to 3rd after a brilliant move by Kutskov, who is looking to have a much better pace, needs to be said, compared to the JMT driver. And here you can see down the inside goes Karhan, thanks to a slight mistake by Mikesh, who went wide at the braking point, and almost contact between the 2 drivers, with lovely skill by Karhan to keep the car on track, but this will leave him vulnerable to Correrella, who now goes through to 4th position. A hard defense from Miroslav Mikesh in the JMT racing car, who was able to keep
third position, but definitely Karhan will not be happy with that, as now Corrella is right behind him, ready to start lap number 5 with 60 minutes and 35 seconds to go. And here you can see, unfortunately, one of the Mafia cars out towards one of the gravel traps, and looks to be Kornelia Olkuchka, the Polish driver, who has dropped down the standings, which is a real shame. She was fighting for the top 10 and seemed to have good pace this weekend, but unfortunately her race coming undone with 60 minutes and 9 seconds remaining. No such issues for Oscar Wirtz at this moment in time. He is still leading the race, but the yellow flag is out, of course, because of the incident. And we will see if we will have a safety car intervention or if the yellow flag will be enough to recover the car of Olkuchka. As now drivers seemed to have slowed down quite a lot, and therefore the safety car is likely to be out here on track at the Slovakia ring for the opening race of the third round of the season for the Formula 4 Central European Zone Championship. And this definitely hampers Oscar Wirtz. He was leading with a 2.5 second gap basically on Kutskov. The gap created by the Austrian driver at the start of the race when Kutskov had to fight against Mikes, and here is the confirmation of the safety car being brought out on track, which means that every single gap will be neutralized and drivers will be bunched up together for the remaining 50 minutes or so of the first race of this weekend. It's a brilliant chance to remember the calendar of the second season of F4 CEZ. We've already covered the first 2 rounds in Balaton and Spielberg. Of course, here we are at the Slovakia ring for the 3rd out of the 6 rounds. We will go in the Czech Republic for a double header through the months of August and September. First of all, it's the Autodrom Most from 3rd to the 4th of August for round 4, before going to Brno, the famous Czech racetrack, between the 7th and the 9th of September for the penultimate round of the year, before Pleinfeld in Austria at the Salzburg ring will host the final round of the season between the 21st and the 22nd of September. It's a very long season going from April to September. It's 6 rounds, which is basically a normality now in Formula 4 racing. Championships having between 5 and 7 rounds to let the drivers learn the car, learn the tracks, and of course develop their skills, which is exactly one of the main goals of this championship, organized and promoted by the ACCR and Krenek Motorsport, that saw Genza dominate the opening season and still staying at the top in season 2, but struggling a bit more with, of course, many more drivers present here on the grid. We had a record-breaking 20 cars in Austria, with a team such as PHM, AIX Racing joining the grid. And here you can see the safety car leading the drivers, with Oscar Wirtz in first position. Then it's Kirill Kutskov in second, and third position currently belongs to Miroslav Mikes for the JMT Racing team. Corrella was capable of going up to 4th, especially after the fight that broke out between Mikes and Max Karhan, the latter now dropping to 5th, and behind them it's Holguin, the debutant for Mafia Racing, currently in 6th position ahead of Sabaj in 7th, with Halatnik, Borenstein and Yandova. Rounding out the top 10 with, unfortunately, Kornelia Olkuchka out of the race after a handful of minutes. The incident being the main reason why we're under safety car conditions right now. With now 12 minutes and 8 seconds remaining, it's going to be very interesting now to see the restart, because of course Oscar Wirtz has to keep his tires into the right temperature window, and just in general Kutskov will be hot on his heels. And now the safety car turning its lights off, meaning that we're ready to start at the end of this lap, lap number 6. as Oscar Wirtz further bunches up the field, with Kutskov that needs to be ready to watch Wirtz's every single move. And here goes the Austrian before the penultimate corner, trying to maybe get a surprise advantage over Kutskov, and it seems to have worked actually, with the driver for Kyrgyzstan losing some ground, and Wirtz now immediately building almost a second big gap over second position, which is definitely a surprise as of right now, with Wirtz flying away. And here you can see now Corerella attacking Mikesh, who is now attacking Kutskov for second place round the outside into turn 1. That will leave him vulnerable to Corerella's attacks, who unfortunately is not able to get through to third place. But now turn 3 will probably tell a different story, as Mikesh tries to go and tuck in the slipstream of Kutskov before trying yet another move towards turn number 3. And here you can see Cucurella almost going up the inside, but here is the lockup from Mikesh, who tried to go around the outside of Kutskov, and that leaves the door wide open to Corerella to go into third, and Max Karhan also jumped up to fourth. And here you can see the spin actually of Mikesh, his hard work going into smokes, quite literally actually, with the tires spinning out. I was wondering where he was because I couldn't see the number 6 car any longer in the top 5, and that is why, unfortunately, with Mikesh dropping to last position, promoting therefore Holguin to 5th in the fight for the podium. And what a shame for Mikesh, who was desperately trying to get some points on the board. It hasn't been the easiest of seasons for him so far. A good job in Balaton Park, 2 4th places and a 5th place in the final race, but only 2 points gathered at the Red Bull Ring. And unfortunately he doesn't look to be now able to fight for the podium as he was doing in Balaton. Here you can see the replay with a touch from Corerella, who sent the number 6 car wide and then spinning out on the grass. A real shame for Mikesh. Will now have to do everything all over again, starting from 10th position. But with only 9 minutes remaining, it's going to be very tough, if not impossible, for him to be back into the fight for the podium places, which now sees Kutskov, Corerella and Karhan as the main protagonists. Corerella now into 3rd position, of course, finishing on the podium in race 3 in Balaton, whereas Karhan is trying to fight for what would be his best result of the season. Him too getting a 3rd place in Balaton, this time in the 2nd of the 3 races held at the brand new Hungarian racetrack in round 1 of the season. It's now 8 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. The top 2 stay as they were on the starting grid, with Oscar Wirtz and Kirill Kutskov in 1st and 2nd position. Here you can see Corerella and Karhan also trying to stay as close as possible to Kutskov, who doesn't seem to have the pace to fight against Oscar Wirtz. The gap now up to 1.7 seconds. And here you can see the Orlen branded car for Yannick Motorsport of Franciszek Halatnik, currently in 8th position. And here you can see a bit of a mistake from Corerella, almost opening the door for Karhan to go through to 3rd position, with the Frenchman though able to keep the place as of right now, of course, because we have still 7 minutes and 19 seconds to go. There's plenty of time here to race and to fight. Of course, Formula 4 racing, you know that anything can happen in a span of 10 to 15 seconds, that we saw, unfortunately, for Mikesh earlier on. And here we go, down the main straight. You can see just how wide this track really is compared to the little Formula 4 cars. Of course, the F4 Central European Zone Championship, rocking the Tatus F4 T421, the brand new car that was built at the end of 2020 and the start of 2021, which is now present in more than a dozen Formula 4 championships all around the world. It's a car loved by young drivers because it's easy to learn but hard to master, as we're seeing here at the Slovakia ring and throughout the season. And it looks to be something that Oscar Wirtz has done brilliantly throughout the winter as well during testing, because the son of the former Formula 1 driver Alexander is handling things beautifully. Although in the previous lap it was Kirill Kutzkov, the fastest driver out on track, with a 2 minutes 4 seconds and 3/10, just a tenth and a half faster than Wirtz, who is still leading by 1.5 seconds over the Mafia Racing driver, with now a little more than 5 minutes to go. Kutzkov not only needs to push to try and get that gap down to 0 from Oscar Wirtz, but he also needs to watch his mirrors, because he has Corrella and Karhan fighting for third and possibly trying to fight for second. But now, after that little mistake a lap ago, Corrella seems to have dropped in pace quite slightly, as Karhan now looks to get all the slipstream in the world towards the final corner. He's very close now into turn 13. We'll see if he can make a move perhaps towards turn 3. We'll have the whole main straight to go, and then 2 other corners that are quite quick to use the slipstream. Let's see if he can even make a pass towards turn 1 as he moves to the inside, but the move doesn't look to be on for now. And that's the case as Corrella keeps third place, with Karhan in 4th. And here you can see the top 4 as now Corrella moves aggressively to the inside to defend his position down towards turn 3. We see many overtakes in this corner. Round the outside goes Karhan, but the space is just not there for now for the Genza driver, who is now trying the over and under, the switchback, which unfortunately for him doesn't work out. And Corrella keeps third position, fighting tooth and nail for the final podium spot. Is the Ideal Line Performance car, the number 74 of Jonathan Corrella, as now Max Karhan is trying desperately to get a move done. He only has 3 minutes and 47 seconds to go. It's roughly 2 to 3 more laps of this very long racetrack. It's a 5.9 kilometer track. We've seen lap times in the 2 minutes and 4 seconds. As they now go towards turn number 10. Very hard braking zone where Corrella made a bit of a mistake a couple of laps ago, locking up and therefore losing ground to Kutzkov. And the gap being 1.4 seconds, Corrella does not have the slipstream anymore from second place, which is definitely hampering his straight line speed and helping, of course, Karhan having a bit of an advantage. And here we go towards turn 13. Round the outside goes Karhan again. No space, but maybe there's space for the switchback, and there is. A lovely move from Max Karhan, and the Genza driver is now up to third, but he will leave himself vulnerable now to Corrella's counter-attack here during what could be the penultimate lap of the race. Corrella goes to the right and left-hand side of the racetrack, trying to get a move done towards turn 1. Has he done it? Round the outside. Doesn't look like it, as Karhan is hard on the brakes, which then means that Corrella has a better exit after turn 1. Lovely racing between the two for third position, as Karhan is trying to desperately put the second Genza car on the podium, joining his teammate Oscar Wirtz, who is currently leading the race. But Corrella has none of it, and he's trying now to force Karhan into a very tight line towards turn number 3. Around the outside goes Corrella, who is trying desperately to get back into third position. What an incredible fight we're witnessing here in the first race at the Slovakia ring, with Corrella, who is able to somehow keep third position, as now we switch to Oscar Wirtz and Kirill Kutzkov. But we saw briefly Corrella staying in front of Karhan. And here they are, still fighting after what is now 10 corners, basically. Incredible stuff between the two drivers. Huge respect as well between Corrella and Karhan, fighting hardly yet fairly with 1.5 minutes left on the clock. And here we go towards turns number 10, 11 and 12, with Corrella approaching turn 10 with a slightly wider line to give himself a better exit, which seems to have helped him actually. And this has also helped Holguin catch back up to the back of Karhan, which could possibly see the Mafia driver being an outside contender for a podium finish here if Corrella and Karhan were to fight one more time, as we now cross the line once again with only 50 seconds to go. Corrella now trying to break off the slipstream, as Karhan is desperately trying to get some, but unfortunately doesn't look like that will be the case into turn 1. He has very few corners left in this race. He looked to have made the pass into turn 13 2 laps ago, but unfortunately for him, it was a poorly timed pass, as Corrella then had all the slipstream in the world towards turn 3, which is what Karhan has now. Can the Genza driver return the favor into turn 3, or will Corrella stay in third? We will have to wait and see, but now all eyes are on Oscar Wirtz as the clock strikes 0. And the Austrian driver is looking to add yet another win, the third of the season, to his tally. He already has over 50 points of an advantage compared to second place Kirill Kutskov, of course, missing out on the second round of the season at the Red Bull Ring. Coming back strong here in Slovakia. Now Wirtz managing the 1.5 second gap that he built exactly at the restart of the safety car period that saw his 2.5 second advantage being neutralized, but he did everything in his power to make it to the finish line in first position, and he's done an amazing job, especially throughout these final few instances of the race. And it's been a brilliant one for Oscar Wirtz, the two-time winner from this season in F4 CEZ. He's about to become a 3-time race winner, as the checkered flag has been waved and Oscar Wirtz has won it right on the line. Is Corrella able to keep third position by only a 10th over Max Karhan? And what a fight in the end, and what an accident also on the final lap. It looks to be a Genza driver and one of the Mafia cars involved in the incident. It looks to be Holguin and Bodenstein, which is a shame because they were running in 6th and 7th respectively, but unfortunately their hard work going up in smokes at the final lap of the race. It's a real shame for both drivers. But what a race for Oscar Wirtz, and what a recovery from Kirill Kutskov after what wasn't a brilliant start. He made it up and was able to finish in second, and here you can see the scene of the crime with the two cars stranded, unfortunately, with Genza and Murphy losing out on very important points in what looks to be turn number 10. So possibly a last lap move from one of the two, possibly Bodenstein, as he was behind getting into the final lap of the race. But what a performance for Oscar Wirtz. His hard work getting repaid by this amazing win here in race 1. He extends his championship lead even further. And unfortunately, you can see here Holguin's car, the Venezuelan driver, unfortunately out of the car. Well, thankfully out of the car in one piece, but of course out of the race and unable to score what would have been a lovely 5th position. It's been a fantastic first race of the season, sorry, of the weekend for the 3rd round of the season. The F4 Central European Zone Championship will be back on Sunday for races 2 and 3. Race 2 ready to get underway at 10:20 a.m. local time, with race 3 scheduled for 1:35 p.m. local time also on Sunday, where Oscar Wirtz will be trying to fight hard for the win once more. And here are the highlights of the opening race of this weekend. It's been a lovely race, especially from Oscar Wirtz. Many incidents actually, but many fights out on track. And here you can see some of the best moments of this opening race, with a lovely defense work from Miroslav Mikes, who was looking to finish on the podium, but unfortunately a contact saw him drop to the tail end of the pack. And here you can see the biggest fight of them all between Corrella and Karhan, but no one was able to touch Oscar Wirtz, the Austrian driver, coming through to take home with the win here at the Slovakia ring with a fantastic performance. And he was able to further extend his championship lead over his rivals.